Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Sharon Florentine. Welcome to today's webinar, Taking DevOps Monitoring to the Next Level, the 5-Step Guide to Monitoring Nirvana, brought to you by Influx Data. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping items I need to go over with you. Please remember the session is being recorded, so if you miss any or all of it, you'll be able to go back and watch it again. We'll be sending an email with instructions for how to access the webinar on demand, or you can always visit us at devops.com/webinars, and it will be there for you as well. We are taking questions throughout the presentation, so if you have any at any time, feel free to put them right into the Q&A tab on your webinar console, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of the presentation. If we run out of time and don't get to your question, never fear. We gather those all up and send them over, and Samantha will be able to get back to you offline. Finally, stick around until the end. We're doing a drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. So again, make sure you stick around and see if you are a winner. And with that, I am pleased to introduce to you Samantha Wang. She's a product manager with Influx Data. Samantha, I'm going to turn my camera off and mute myself and let you take it away.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sharon. Yeah, I'll get started. Hi, everyone. I guess it's good morning here, so I'll stick with that. I'm Samantha Wang. I'm a product manager here at Influx Data. I mainly work with kind of the data collection aspects of our products here at Influx Data. But if you have any questions, I guess we're going to be talking about Influx Data in general. If you have any questions about really anything at Influx Data, let me know. Feel free to, as Sharon mentioned, drop questions in the chat. And kind of we'll talk about other of our community resources here at Influx Data throughout this presentation. But yeah, today we're gonna taking DevOps monitoring to the next level, the 5-step guide to monitoring Nirvana. So let's get started. So today we're going to go over some things. We're going to go over just kind of the industry of kind of like the time series industry, kind of the monitoring industry, kind of what industries kind of utilize monitoring and time series data, why Influx Data and Influx DB. We'll go over some customer examples, and then we'll definitely leave time at the end for some questions, and I will provide the answers. Hopefully, yes. So a little bit about myself. Yeah, my name is Samantha Wang. I'm a product manager here. I've been working at Influx Data for 1.5 to 2 years. Spent most of my time working with the data collection portion, but have become really familiar with kind of our OSS products, our cloud products, using Flux, our querying language, which we'll talk about more. But yeah, definitely kind of really familiar. We have a great product and engineering team. If there's kind of features or bugs or issues you ever want to see, even maybe bring those up in the chat. I don't know, and we can kind of get a good. I think I always want to get a good understanding of where our users, if you used Influx DB before, are running into trouble from like a usability perspective, or maybe what you're looking for in a monitoring platform. So let's talk a little bit more about Influx Data, just kind of at a glance. Yeah, we were founded in 2013. We were based we were originally kind of headquarters in San Francisco, but as we kind of know now, we're all kind of based around the world. We actually have a pretty strong presence globally. We have a lot of people, a lot of engineers, and leadership in Europe and Canada. So we have a strong global presence. As we talk about Influx DB Cloud, a lot of our end users we're seeing not only North America based and Europe based, but kind of it growing across globally. And we want to make sure we're building out our products for our global audience. So even though we kind of even started kind of in the United States and expanded out more, we have technical functions all over the globe. Our mission is to deliver the best platform for time series data. We'll talk a little bit more about time series data in general, but I think we always want to drive to be that best, not only database, but entire platform as a whole for you ingesting your time series data. Our focus is really that real-time visibility, we want to make, we are constantly improving. If you've ever seen any of our talks with our CTO, just always improving upon that real-time visibility and speed that we have. Yeah, just going through the last few items, kind of, we'll talk a little more about our business model. It's kind of, we started originally as kind of an open source product and distribution with some closed source economics, which we like to make sure we offer both solutions, especially as a product manager for our strong developer community that really drives our open source products and contributions, but for a lot of these larger scales, especially for monitoring, DevOps monitoring solutions kind of require some more closed source features that we have to provide these larger customers. Okay, so let's go into some just market drivers of what kind of drives Influx Data's products and where we see kind of the industry going. We really have kind of this age of instrumentation that we've been building out for. This being a kind of a DevOps webinar, Influx Data since 2013, since kind of we started, we had been building products for this DevOps world, just this world that required this high volume of data, especially in real time. Kind of all the existing other database platforms that were out there always kind of got close to that, and kind of all our end customers talked about having their kind of those frustrations around not having that real-time visibility, being able to kind of hold this ever. I think if we can even just think about kind of how big like the data in this DevOps world is growing. It's not just even at a linear level, but an exponential level, and making sure that we provide a database for that immense growth. And then on the left-hand side, also kind of this IoT, this Internet of Things world, we've actually been seeing a lot of IoT users coming to our platforms in the last year or two. We had a good number of customers before, but with our cloud product, we've actually just seen a lot of IoT customers, small, even just hobbyists to larger industrial IoT customers, really finding that if you think about IoT data, that's all time series data, them needing to find a platform and a monitoring solution for their IoT data. And Influx DB happens to be a great solution for them. And so also seeing the industry move towards autonomy, just kind of Influx DB, we want to make sure it's a platform that you can set up, especially as someone who oversees kind of the data collection portion of it. I actually want to make data collection kind of easy enough that you aren't spending your time having to focus on getting your collection agents kind of set up it's something you should be able to just set up and leave running. And so you can kind of focus on, if we look at this kind of instrument, observe, learn, automate, being able to spend more time on the observe and learn aspect and have everything else. You have all the kind of daily tasks automated, and so you can go about and spend your personal, like kind of human time, I guess, on more important things. So we really want to focus on this kind of move towards autonomy in our products, and especially for our users as well. So kind of, this is actually a pretty interesting side. If you aren't too familiar with time series data and kind of wanting to kind of learn more about it and kind of why we have a whole kind of company database for just time series data, this is a really kind of good kind of, I guess, timeline of the database world and this emergence of a new category of time series data, time series databases. As you can see, the first three out here, we have our existing SQL databases, kind of the most popular, Oracle, where your orders and lines, kind of that metadata where I guess just you had your functionality of kind of everything that you needed that was in just kind of rows but once you kind of scaled that to a larger level, it's kind of really hard to optimize and query and analyze. So that was kind of, Oracle has been the driver around that, but kind of we saw limiting solutions around that. And we also had kind of a search database category pop up, kind of logs and web pages with Splunk and Elastic. but having kind of limited capabilities around there. And then with the emergence of big data, we saw a lot of volume and variety with kind of Hadoop and those other type of platforms being able to support those big data use cases. But time series, we really focus on metrics and events, and I think we kind of really want to make sure we can also address everything else on those those first three. As I mentioned, time series data, I think a big thing is how it handles. If you think about metrics, I guess, like regular metrics, if you're ingesting data at the nanosecond level, that is an incredibly large volume that you're ingesting. So being able to support that is something that time series data does as well. And yeah, we're just seeing kind of this emergence that more data out there is kind of already timestamped, and time series data is just becoming even more generated with the growth of IoT and the increase of kind of data centers around the globe. With just the amount of time series data that's being produced out there is growing, and people need to store it and view it. And so they can use Influx DB to do that. So time series and Influx DB, these are kind of just DB engine scores. Kind of looking at the trends, I think is pretty interesting. Just seeing how I think, as we mentioned at the as I mentioned at the beginning, Influx DB's kind of goal is always to be that leader in the time series space, which based off DB engine, we've been able to do that. But I think also seeing on the left how time series has been, I think, just even like relational databases are still kind of a lot more like people. If you think about a database, you think about a relational database even more. But if we think about kind of growth in terms of databases and data in terms of database categories, time series data is definitely the fastest growing database that is out there. So this kind of helps you understand of what time series is, and also I think just how important it is to kind of make sure you have a time series solution, especially if you're doing monitoring and in the DevOps world. Okay, now we're going to quickly dive into this 5 steps of monitoring Nirvana, and then I'll kind of relate to how Influx DB and all of its products can help provide solutions to these 5 steps. Okay, so the first step is just collecting your data. Kind of as I mentioned, this is particularly important to me in understanding the challenges and how Influx data we can make that easier for you. But even just kind of spending time understanding what type of data you're collecting today, whether it's IoT data, network data, and I think in early in that process, understanding what data you want. Like you have all these devices, you might have all these devices, you have IoT devices you have in the field, or all this data center data, but you don't necessarily want every single metric coming into your database. So I think understanding kind of what data you want, what data you don't want, kind of how messy is that data, where in the process do you want to clean it up, how do you want to go about collecting it, what interval do you want to be collecting it, is there kind of how much of the data, how much of the kind of cleansing of the data do you want to do before it hits the database? I think understanding that before you kind of dive into building out your whole kind of DevOps monitoring setup is really important. And in kind of understanding how you're going to build out your monitoring monitoring environment. So definitely, yeah, collecting your data is definitely step one. But kind of focusing on pre-planning, on understanding how you want to go about it. And I think, as I mentioned, just putting the effort into making sure that collection process is easy. And our main product, Telegraph, kind of allows you to set it up and just leave it running, so you don't have to go back and worry about having to tweak things every week with your collection agents, but being able to continue running so you can spend that time focusing on actual monitoring. Okay, so step number 2, correlate and triage, kind of understanding data dimensionality, kind of the different frequencies and timeframes that your data is coming in. We talk a lot about kind of on these slides have things around metrics and events, and we like to think about a lot of our data coming in, especially time series data coming in. Our metrics are kind of regular with regular and irregular events. So your regular data coming in could just be, we like to think of as like coming in at a regular time period. So you have DevOps data coming in, you have network data, you have SNMP data coming in every 10 seconds, and it's coming in at a regular interval every 10 seconds. That's what your regular data would be. And so understanding what interval you want that to be coming in, because obviously if it's coming at a higher interval, you're going to have a lot more data in your database, but you can always, in understanding if you want to be looking at that frequency, you might only want to be looking at that hour frequency, but also you might have irregular events coming in as well. So you might have data coming in every time it hits a certain warning level, this type of data from your data centers are coming in. So understanding the frequencies and timeframes that your data is coming in is especially important too. And if you want to tweak those timeframes as well, I think that's really important in kind of getting in understanding how your monitoring environment will look like. Identifying trends. So yeah, kind of when you think about monitoring, a big thing is once your data is in your database and you're visualizing it with your dashboards or your various querying that you've done, identifying trends is incredibly important, and those can be important, especially for that kind of act on aspect of that people use when using Influx DB or any kind of database monitoring platform. Kind of understanding those are there daily trends going on? Are there hourly trends going on? Do I need to staff my monitor, like NOC, like have more around the clock engineers looking at kind of monitoring our data centers. Yeah, understanding those trends and forecasting based off historical data, being able to have all that mass amount of volumes of data that you have in Influx DB, and being able to notice what's going on historically, so you can take action kind of in the future and kind of make your lives easier around that. Managing inventory as well. I think I mentioned knowing where this says like where your safety levels are, kind of knowing determining what your baseline is, and kind of where you should be worried if you're falling below your baseline, or if how you're gonna have to change that baseline in the future. Notifying and act. So once you're able to identify those trends, being able to notify yourself and act as well. We have a lot of those features in Influx DB. We call them kind of alerts, and call them alerts and notifications. Being able to understand if you want to kind of what manual aspects you want and what do you want to automate. We have a feature called tasks capabilities, where you can write a query to run a task every 10 minutes maybe, or every hour to do some sort of task function. And you can send a notification to send a pager duty if you hit a certain limit based off a task. And being able to automate that as well. So once again, you can also focus your time doing other things, but take action when you need to. So this is incredibly important in monitoring, just being able to be notified, especially in real time. I think that's once again emphasis on this time series data, and being able to take action when it happens, immediately when it happens, and I guess also being notified immediately when it happens, as opposed to other databases that might kind of, because of just the way that it operates, have a 10-minute delay. But if you're thinking about in the DevOps world, 10 minutes can feel like a lifetime when there's an outage. So notifying and acting, especially in real time, is kind of step 4. And lastly, we have kind of predict, kind of what if analysis. And kind of once you're able to get your data in, analyze historical data, set up automation to make kind of your life easier in the future when kind of maybe you hit a warning level, or you hit kind of, or setting up a dead man alert, being able to kind of predict to what your data will look like in the future is another aspect of kind of getting in that good headspace around monitoring. Being able to just kind of understand the trends that your data is going into, understand what kind of costs that might be making to your data centers in the future. Do I want to, should I be expanding? Do we want to be expanding out to that other data center? Is it worth that amount of money? Being able to look at your historical data and predict in the future what your infrastructure may look like. Okay, now we're going to dive in a little more on the Influx Data platforms and kind of everything that, how kind of Influx Data, everything we do to kind of address those five steps, and making sure that we're making monitoring as easy as possible for not only our large customers, but even just like if you're doing some website monitoring, wanting to monitor your application that you built, being able to do that as well. Okay, so as we like to say that Influx DB is a platform for all metrics and event workloads, no matter if you're doing infrastructure monitoring, if you're doing web monitoring, Influx DB is built to be the solution for that. And so we like to break this out into kind of these 3 steps of accumulate, analyze, and act, as you can kind of relate back into those 5 steps before. So Influx DB, you can accumulate your data, whether they're events, logs, traces, ingest those into Influx DB, do kind of the analysis you need to do with our new notebooks tool using our querying language Flux, and then act on that as well, whether it's through looking at dashboards, kind of having dashboards set up in your NOC kind of emergency center, or wherever kind of room that you might have, setting up those alerts for your night shift people to be alerted via pager duty, being able to act on the data that you've accumulated and analyzed. So we also wanted to talk about kind of the powerful analytics that Influx DB offers. We recently, well, I guess not recently at this point, I guess a couple years ago, I built our open source querying language Flux. As I mentioned, this Flux is a language that is especially built for time series analysis. Previous to Flux, Influx DB had a SQL-like querying language called InfluxQL, which was still supported, but we had found that there was a lot of limitations for doing time series, I guess, doing analysis specifically for time series data. So our team here kind of built their own, not only querying language, but scripting language as well, called Flux, that makes it kind of easier, kind of is a lot more useful when you're doing time series specific analysis. If we're thinking about going back to that slide we had about all those different type of databases, even though SQL is incredibly popular, it was really purpose built to query on those relational database SQL kind of databases out there. So Flux is written and built to work on time series databases specifically. It's once again kind of our dedication to open source. Flux is open source, so if you are really interested in adding a feature that you don't see currently, definitely check out the source code and open a PR. We have an incredible team of Flux engineers, as well as community. So drop into our community Slack kind of website and feel free to ask any questions if you need help building anything out yourself. But yeah, definitely check out Flux if you really want to take kind of your time series analysis to the next level. Flux is a great solution. So next we're going to talk about Influx DB Templates. This is actually when we talk about speeding up that accumulation portion, so you can spend more time on that analyze and act portion. Influx DB Templates is a great option for you. These are actually kind of entire packages that include Telegraph configurations. I guess I haven't fully gone in. Telegraph is our data collection agent that we offer, but so it essentially includes your data collection. It includes dashboards. It includes notifications and alerts if that kind of fits the need for common monitoring setups. So we have a Windows systems monitoring Influx DB templates. We have trying to think. We have just kind of your general monitoring template. We have a lot of security templates as well. Kind of if you're looking to monitor your to kind of just keep making sure the security of your environment's up to date, you can use a template for that. We also even have kind of a lot of fun hobby ones as well. We have a lot of like a Counter-Strike template, a Fortnite template, but Influx DB templates are just a really great way that you don't necessarily have to go through building your dashboard. Even building a dashboard can be pretty time consuming. Spending time trying to figure out your Telegraph config. This is all included in this one package. It would just be a YAML file that you would upload to Influx DB Cloud, and you can get up and started really quickly. This is also kind of a community project as well. I think that's what the Influx DB templates really started out as. We had just seen that there were all these kind of just common use cases that were out there, and we wanted to make sure users had we're able to kind of share these common setups that they had. So being able to share their dashboards and how they're collecting data and have other people to use it. So if you end up having a solution yourself that you've been using in Influx DB, feel free to save it as Influx DB template, and we can get that back on our webpage for other people to use. Yeah, so a lot of our core focus has been for developers and builders. We really like to be kind of an application of not only kind of using Influx DB as from end to end, but we like to make sure our end users have that flexibility of being able to find the right aspect of Influx DB that fits into kind of their building blocks. So if you're looking for just a database, but you've already have a UI that you want to build on top of it, you can use Influx DB for that. We are constantly having that focus for our developers and builders, and want to make sure that if you're trying to build a monitoring application, we can provide that ease and kind of happiness for you. So this talks about kind of the offerings that Influx DB has. As Influx DB definitely had we started off really focusing on our open source. So we released our open source 2.x product, I think last fall at our Influx Days conference, Influx Days North America conference. But it's a great open source solution. If it's single binary, if that's something that you want to build on your own device, kind of that customizability, as I mentioned, is really important. We want to make sure we offer that for our users. Being able to download the source code and make any changes that you want to it yourself. that's something that our Influx DB open source product provides. Influx DB Cloud, we're on all three major cloud platforms. It kind of has a lot of the benefits of open source, but in the cloud. We have a pay-as-you-go model, but what's especially interesting about Influx DB Cloud, it does have this free forever tier. So you don't even need, it's easy to sign up. I think if you definitely haven't used Influx DB before and you want a quick way to try it out, sign up for Influx DB Cloud. You don't need a credit card to sign up. There's a pretty good free tier that's out there. We have a lot of demo data that doesn't go towards your writes kind of or reads. So if you definitely if you want to look at Influx DB and you don't know where to start, I think signing up for Influx DB Cloud and checking out the platform from there is definitely would be my first suggestion. And then lastly, we have an enterprise solution for, as I mentioned, especially I think particularly important for this audience, just kind of this DevOps world on premise. If you can't be working in the cloud for security reasons or anything, we offer an on-premise an Influx DB enterprise solution. So this is kind of managed a little more by our sales team, but if that's something that you think is something that you need or your organization might need, definitely check that out as well. And all three of our products work off the same API, and you can use Telegraph, as I mentioned, kind of that data collection agent that I work very closely with to ingest your data. You could honestly ingest your data with Telegraph to all three databases at the same time if you wanted. So yeah, Telegraph can be your solution, whether or not you're using OSS or cloud or enterprise. So this is a look at kind of the architecture. I think kind of understanding how does Influx DB and Telegraph and Flux kind of fit into, how might it fit into your architecture overall. On the left, you can see would be where whatever data you're collecting from. So if it's network data coming from your data centers, if it's data coming from the cloud, you can use that to feed into Telegraph. So Telegraph would be this agent that you would download and set up to configure, extremely lightweight, to configure and start collecting metrics to send to Influx DB. And once that data is in Influx DB, we have a lot of these kind of what we talked about, the act and analyze, a lot of those later steps in those 5 steps, all purpose built into all built into Influx DB already. So Flux is already you can use directly on Influx DB. We have dashboards, kind of alerting and notifications, all in Influx DB. Kind of everything that you see there, you can do all within Influx DB itself. But we also want to kind of maybe offer that flexibility for users as well. So that's why we have kind of these other kind of alerting frameworks on and other information on the at the bottom. If you like to do if you have other tools that you're doing your machine learning, you can go back and query that through Influx DB. But if you're building a UI on top, your own UI on top of Influx DB, you can go back and just use Influx DB as your database and you build a UI on top of it. So that's, I think, just really important for us. A lot of users we hear about, they get really frustrated from a lot of these kind of out-of-box solutions that other companies have, but we want to make sure that we provide that flexibility for our end users, no matter what they're trying to do. Okay, so yeah, I guess in InfluxData product and offerings, kind of touched on this a little bit, but yeah, kind of having this, being able to do your accumulate, act, and analyze all across the board. But let's go in and talk about Influx DB Cloud a little more. I think this is especially, even just kind of from a product side, we're putting a lot of our product roadmap and a lot of our exciting things. You don't have to upgrade your Influx DB OSS instance to get all these cool new features, but you can get it all on Influx DB Cloud. As I mentioned, it's kind of has this free forever tier and is a pay-as-you-go model. So if you're only writing in like a few metrics an hour, and if you really want kind of a really small, you don't have a huge budget for your monitoring setup, Influx DB Cloud could be a solution for you. We really want to make sure we fit into this. We have this like time to awesome saying that we have over here at Influx Data. There's nothing to install with Influx DB Cloud. As I mentioned, you don't even need a credit card to sign up. You can load data quickly using Telegraph or client libraries. There's kind of this elastic scalability. It's kind of completely serverless. We have, once again, I mentioned usage-based pricing. So being able to just kind of have a solution that fits your needs. Deep insight and analytics, all within Influx DB Cloud, all within whether or not, even if you're more familiar using the command line or you want to be using the UI. Flux is included. There are kind of pre-built dashboards and notifications and alerts, and then also just developer happiness. I think we had that chart with the single API with the OSS cloud on-prem. We want to make sure, even though we're constantly making Influx DB Cloud kind of easier to use, that all of these really highly technical end users, kind of our hardcore developers, are so able to be kind of extensible with their solution. And yeah, as I mentioned, Influx DB Cloud is currently on all major cloud platforms. I'll quickly go into kind of how our end customers are using Influx DB and how this might fit your solution as well. Robinhood is one of our customers that uses Influx DB for this, not only just anomaly detection, but I think real-time anomaly detection. If you think about a company like Robinhood, who has financial data coming in, I don't really care about what my financial data looked like even like an hour ago. I want to know what it is in real time. That's especially important for a company like Robinhood. So they've been working with us on being that database solution for them, and making sure their end users are being able to do those to being able to make sure their company is able to do those intelligent alerts in not like close to real time, but actual real time. Optum is a company as well that uses us as kind of a metrics as a service company that uses us to kind of improve their just DevOps, their DevOps system overall, kind of increase their DevOps productivity, support their CI/CD initiatives, and being able to just really provide this common platform to store and analyze and notify on their infrastructure. Wayfair is a customer that we actually really like to talk about as well, just because of kind of the size of, you can think about a company like Wayfair, and I think I talked about that kind of growing, about how we want to make sure we are helping our customers and end users support for their growing, not only just kind of linear growth, but exponential growth. If you can think about a company like Wayfair, how much their usage grew over the pandemic, we wanted to make sure we provided that, so that we wanted to make sure our database was there to support their needs. But they do kind of these real-time user monitoring. We've actually kind of seen they have that, if you think about that, like that knock center with all the dashboards up there. That's kind of a big way that they use Influx DB, but making sure that they don't reduce downtime. If you're on Wayfair, if you go to their website and it's down, you're not gonna wait 10 minutes to see if it comes back up. You're going to go somewhere else and shop. So reducing downtime is incredibly important for them, and just being able to make sure that they're up and running for supporting their users across the globe and having Influx DB to do that. And kind of the last slide, just kind of next steps on if everything, if kind of you're looking for an improved way on your monitor, if everything here sounds interesting to you about trying to improve your monitoring solution, kind of the next step, as I mentioned, try out Influx DB Cloud today. It's free to sign up. Easy to get started. Join our community, join our Slack channels, our community forums. We're really active on those two spaces. Reddit, we take a look at as well, and we have our Twitter. We have a social media team that monitors our Twitter as well. So feel free to tweet at us too, if that's your preferred method of communication. Otherwise, that's kind of the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for joining me today, wherever you are, and hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions, I think, as Jer mentioned, drop them in the channel. If you think of something after the fact, feel free to reach out in our community channels that I mentioned before.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Samantha. That was really interesting. I did not know what time series data was before this, and now I have a better understanding. So thank you.
Yeah, I have to explain it to my friends all the time. So.
All right. So we do have some time for a couple questions here. Let's jump in. What kinds of dashboards are pre-built with Influx DB?
So we have a lot of, I guess we have outside of Influx DB templates, we have a couple pre-built dashboards. If you're, I guess the first one's coming to mind is kind of your systems monitoring dashboard that is pre-built and has everything highlighting what you need. But I think the Influx DB templates are especially important. Those all come with those pre-built templates that I mentioned. So if you're looking to monitor your Docker environment, there's an Influx DB template for that includes all of those pre-built dashboards. If you're as I think I talked about, we have a Fortnite dashboard. We have a pre-built dashboard for your Fortnite. Fortnite metrics in there. Your IoT, your IoT devices. We'll have a template for that includes dashboards as well. So I think if you're looking for pre-built dashboards, definitely check out that Influx DB templates that I had talked about.
Okay, cool. And what other built-in analysis tools are there in Influx DB?
Yeah, so I think I talked a lot about Flux, but I guess I could even touch more on, we released kind of notebooks. I think if you're kind of a developer, you're pretty familiar with like Jupyter notebooks. We have notebooks in our Influx DB Cloud that actually offers a really good analyzing experience. I was using it really recently to ingest some bike data and look at some bike data. I definitely say that's another incredibly great built-in tool that we've been building out features for and building out the user experience for. So definitely, I think notebooks would be a really strong built-in analysis tool in Influx DB.
Okay. All right, folks. Well, if you've got any more questions, go ahead and submit them now. All right. It doesn't look like we've got any more coming in right now, but I will keep an eye on it as I start my wrap up here. Folks, just a reminder that the session has been recorded. So if you missed any or all of it, you'll be able to go back and watch it again. You can visit us at devops.com/webinars. It'll be there for you, or we also send an email with instructions for accessing the webinar on demand. All right, so with that, I'm going to do our drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. All right, so let's see. Our first winner today is Mark D. Congratulations to Mark. Next, we've got Alan J. Congratulations, Alan. Emily R. Congratulations, Emily. And finally, Amy G. Congratulations to all our Amazon winners. We will be sending you an email with instructions for how to claim your gift cards. So keep an eye on your inbox for that. If you don't see it come through, make sure and check your spam folders. All right, folks, thank you so much again for joining us today. Thank you, Samantha, for that amazing presentation and all that great info. Hope to see everyone here again soon on another DevOps.com webinar. And with that, I am Sharon Florentine signing off.